Hello everyone and welcome to another video of the Sky channel. So this video is going to be about the Supreme Spirit class, which is one of the new classes that they released in the Legend of Mushroom. We are going to focus on building this class based on how you can maximize it due to synergies. So we're not going to cover every single detail. We'll focus on the things that may make this class more effective and the different things to use to maximize the class specific abilities of this class. Let's start by trying to understand the active and passive skills. Okay, the active skill deals 10,527% area effect damage and increases the PAL damage received by targets within the range by 40%, lasting for 8 seconds. So first of all, you can see that this class is talking about PAL damage, which means that the focus of this class is going to be PALs and PAL damage. Additionally, PAL's basic attacks and combos gain a 40% chance of dealing an extra damage equal to 1% of the target's maximum HP, lasting for 8 seconds. So first of all, PAL's basic attacks and combos. Right? And a lot of you may not even understand how PALs now have combos. Well, they do. And we'll check that out in a bit. But now PALs can also do combo damage. A 40% chance of dealing damage equal to 1% of the maximum HP sounds really nice, right? Because it's maximum, not current HP, which means that if your PALs do lots of basic attacks and combos, they can actually do a lot of damage to the enemy, even if they are huge tanks with a ton of HP, right? So very interesting. The active skill does seem quite strong. Moving on to the passive skills, the first one is that you get an extra PAL, which is amazing because, well, if you remember, it's focusing on PAL damage. Their basic attacks and combos can actually do 1% of the maximum HP as extra damage, so having an extra one is definitely useful. Next one, the base attack speed of PALs goes up by 0.1%. which is helpful. Higher attack speed is definitely something you do want. And then ignore evasion goes up by 10% as well, which is amazing because you want to avoid missing against the enemies. The next one enhances PAL's deploy effects by 20%, which is really cool. I haven't seen this sort of thing before, which actually allows you to enhance their deploy effects. And sometimes those deploy effects can be pretty cool. Getting an extra 20% on those is pretty nice if you ask me. The next one gains extra effects based on the first two PALs races in the lineup, and the same effects do not stack. This one is a little bit more detailed, but I'm going to try to break it down for you so you can understand better. Based on the first two PALs that you select, for example here I have the Treasure Dragon and the Hipster Tortoise. You can see that the race of the Treasure Dragon is Dragon and the race of the Hipster Tortoise is Turtle. So based on those races, we get certain effects. Now what you can look over here is that the first one gives 15% global attack. The second one gives a 10% extra PAL attack speed. The third one gives 15% global HP. The fourth one gives 30% global defense. And the fifth one gives 5% global attack, 5% global health, and 10% global defense. Now you remember that the first one was a dragon and the second one was a turtle. So I'd be getting 15% global attack and 15% global health based on these two PALs being the first two. But the interesting thing is I could easily switch this around and get something else. And honestly, if I was a Supreme Spirit class, I would probably want to get that 10% attack speed of the PALs because we are going to really bulk up our PALs. So I'd really want that. And the good thing is that you are going to have a lizard in your PAL set anyway. So it's quite easy for you to get. Now make sure that you do not use the first two PALs being part of the exact same set. So do not put cactus and octopus and just be happy with that because you're not going to get 30% global attack. You'll end up getting just 15%. Or similarly, you don't want to just have like a panda and a deer as the first two. You'll only get 15% global HP. So be careful on how you do it so that you can get different sets of bonuses and don't think that you can actually get the same one twice. You can't. Okay, so as a Supreme Spirit, try to get that lizard one and then you can decide which one you need. I mean, you can see that the attack and health, you're getting 15% each. If you decide to go defense, you actually get 30%. And if you go to the bottom one, it actually gives you based on the same ratio, right? You're getting double the defense, but 5 of the attack and health. Okay, so that's the the fourth one. Let's go to the fifth one. So this is not talking about the first two. This is about the number of deployed pals belonging to certain races. The first one, pal skills deal extra damage equal to 2% of the enemy's maximum health if there are 2 or more chicken or snow sprite pals deployed. Now the only thing is, I never thought pals actually had skills as well. I'm not sure if that's a new thing coming out, or maybe I completely missed it altogether, that maybe pals do have certain skills associated with them. I thought pals only do basic attacks, and now we added combos to the mix, but apparently they also have skills now. I'm not sure, maybe this is considered a skill, with every 3 combos deal an extra 60% current combo damage, but I'm not really sure. To be honest, this could be something that might not even have come out yet. Okay, the next one, character skills have a 30% chance of dealing extra damage equal to 2% of the enemy's maximum HP. Same thing. It's just that now it's a 30% chance instead of a 100% chance for the previous one. And now we're relying on character skills and not pal skills. The damage, 2% of maximum HP, is the same. And of course, you need 2 or more of cat, Hydra Sprite, or Fox pals deployed, and if you end up having 3 or more, you have a 45% chance of dealing the same amount of damage, right? So if you have 2, you do have a 30% chance of doing this. If you get a third one of either cat, Hydra Sprite, or Fox, you get a 45% chance of doing this. And again, it's still character skills, not pal skills. The third one, pals gain 10% combo, and this is the pal combo, so not your own combo, when there are 2 or more cactus, bird, octopus, banana, or hellfire feather pals deployed, and then they gain 15% combo when you have 3 of them. Next, characters and pals gain 10% crit rate when you have 2 of either dragon, eggplant, or mecha dragon, and if you have 3, it goes up to 15% crit rate for you, both yourself and your pals, which is quite interesting. The next one, pals have a 30% chance of restoring 0.2% of your maximum HP for the character with every basic attack and combo when you have 2 or more of the panda, dog, lizard, and toothpaste pals deployed. It goes up to 30% chance of restoring 0.3% if you have 3 of them. Next one, characters gain 12% damage resistance, which decays by 1/3 every 10 seconds. So you start off with 12% damage resistance, and the way I read it is that after 10 seconds, instead of it being 12, it's going to go down to 8%, and then maybe 10 seconds after, it's going to go down to 4%, and then 10 seconds after, it's going to be 0%, but I can't be 100% sure. Maybe it's just 1/3 of the current one, so first one is going to decrease it to 8%, and then the next one is going to be actually reducing it by 1/3 of 8% and not the original 12. Not 100% sure, but that's the way I read it. Now, if you have 3 of them, you actually start off at 16% and you lose only 1/4 of it every 10 seconds. So much better if you have 3. Okay, so the last one gains 1% final basic attack damage and final pal damage every second, which stacks up to 10 times. So in 10 seconds, you get 10% final basic attack damage and 10% final pal damage. And it starts at the start of the battle when there are 2 pals not belonging to any of the races above deployed. It goes up to 1.5%, stacking up to 10 times, so it can go up to 15% final basic attack damage and final pal damage if you have 3 or more not belonging to any of the races above. Okay, so as you can imagine, this last one, really complicated, right? There's just so much going on and so much text, and it really does require you to think really hard on what you are trying to achieve. Let's look at each and every one and try to see how this can be useful for our class. The first one, pal skills. I don't even know what pal skills are as of now, which could be because I just haven't paid that much attention, or maybe I completely missed it. So I'm not even going to try to get to this one. I would probably be prioritizing the second one because it's talking about character skills, and I know that we do a lot of character skills, even though the percentage is much lesser than 100%. It's 30% or 45%. And we're talking about cat, Hydra Sprite, or Fox spells. Now, the other thing to really consider is, do you want to fit in the cat, Hydra Sprite, or Fox purely for this effect? Probably not. I mean, for any of these effects, you really need to think big picture. Are you developing a build that is focusing on pal damage and skills? If yes, this becomes a no-brainer. You are focusing on skills anyway, and this is giving you extra damage, which makes a lot of sense. But if you are not focusing on building this class with a lot of pal damage, and pal damage I'm assuming is going to be a constant because you're all about pal damage anyway. But if you are focusing on, let's say, pal damage in combos or pal damage in counters, this may not be a good choice for you. The third one, talking about pals gaining 10 to 15% combo, this one I think definitely makes sense for your class, right? Because we are talking about combo for pals. So I would try to get this one if possible. And one of the pals that they're talking about is Hellflame Feather, which is an interesting pal to have anyway. So it may not be that difficult for you to try to make this one work. The next one is talking about 10% to 15% crit rate for both yourself and the pals if you have 2 or 3 dragon, eggplant, or mecha dragon. Now, eggplant gives you a 10% crit rate anyway, and dragon really helps you with crit damage. So if you're deciding to go the crit way, right, and you want to have a class that does a lot of crit and crit damage, this class passive effect gives you the ability to do that even better by getting 10 to 15% extra crit rate as a base. The next one gives you a chance of restoring 0.2 to 0.3% of your maximum HP every basic attack and combo. And I'm assuming that's pal basic attack and pal combo, which is quite interesting. Now the thing is, you need to have panda, dog, lizard, or toothpaste, which is interesting because the lizard is a must-have for your class anyway, so you only need to add one of the others, right, either panda, dog, or toothpaste to get the 0.2% max HP for your character unlocked. So it may not be that bad to just add the panda in, which already gives you the deploy effect of HP regeneration plus 40%, and it's going to be enhanced by 20% because of your class attributes, which basically means that you have the ability to really double down on healing as well. Again, you can already see that this fifth passive ability by itself just gives you so much room to decide on what sort of build you want to make it. You want to make it a healing one, you want to make it a crit one, it gives you the options of choosing what sort of class you want to make it, right? It's like it's a sandbox. You can choose what you want to mix it with, and based on the sort of pals that you're choosing, it's giving you something that you probably will need based on this, right? You can change things around. You can make it focusing on different attributes, like you can make it a healing one, you can make it a damage dealer, you can make it a combo one, crit rate, right? So many different options that you can choose. The next one, giving damage resistance, seems to be nice as well. The deer gives damage resistance to begin with, and the deer is always nice to have. And not to mention the turtle is pretty good to have as well because of the shield. So you can probably try to get this one there as well because it'll allow you to live longer. So it's definitely a good one to try to get, and easy to get as well because deer and turtle are useful anyway. And the puppy is interesting as well because it does increase the ability of your shield. So if you decide to go with the damage res route, getting the deer, turtle, and puppy isn't that difficult to do, and it'll give you a much better survivability. The last one just gives you up to 10 to 15% final basic attack damage and final pal damage, which is pretty nice, but you need to have 2 or more pals that are not belonging to any of the races above. And of course, you really need to think about the fact that are you going to make sure that you have 2 useless pals in there just to get this ability? If that's the case, then probably not the best decision, right? You need to build your class and get the pals that are best for your class. And if you end up having 2 pals that do not belong to the races above, really cool. You get extra pal damage, you get extra final basic attack damage. But if not, I wouldn't just choose pals that are completely useless for your build just to get this one in. And overall you can see that the whole thing is about giving you certain things based on the sort of pals that you've chosen, right? It's not like the pals give you some other stuff and this is giving you some other stuff. There is a little bit of a link between the sort of pals that they're talking, right? Character skills, well, Hydra Sprite is meant for skills, so there is that link, making it quite interesting, and usually it will help you with your build based on the ones that you've decided to build. So I know this was really hard to explain, and honestly the first time I took a look at it I was like, oh my god, how am I supposed to go through all of this and then try to explain it to all of you? Well, I hope at least some part of it was understandable, but you can understand that this isn't a very typical class. It has a lot of possibilities based on how you want to build it. So now, given that we've already been talking about pals so much, let's talk about the fact that we definitely do need the lizard in our build, right? Because it increases pal damage by 80% and ignore evasion by 10%. So our definite must have pal for this class. And just because of that, you already have one lizard in your pals that is guaranteed. And that's why, as I mentioned before, you might as well just get a second one and get that ability unlocked. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have all of these pals from different categories and then end up getting nothing from the fifth passive effect, right? You do want to benefit from the fifth passive by building out your pals in a way that you do get as much benefit as possible from your fifth passives. Other than that, as I mentioned before, the hipster tortoise is always helpful for giving you an extra survivability, and the deer as well, always helpful for some extra survivability. The parrot gives you a 75% extra pal crit damage, which is quite helpful as well, and I'd probably fit that in as well. And the interesting thing is the pirate parrot isn't really part of any of the ones mentioned above, which means that if you fit in one more pal, you do end up getting a 10% final pal damage, making this last ability quite achievable. You don't need to have two wasted pals, you already have that parrot, which isn't mentioned in any of the ones above, so all you need is one more pal. That can be fairly useful while also giving you the 10% extra pal damage, which you desperately need. So definitely achievable, and I'd probably try for that at that point. So skills, of course, you want to choose the skills that are going to benefit you based on how you are planning to build the class. As we mentioned before, there's a huge range of stuff that you can focus on. You can try to make it a healing one. You can try to make it a damage dealing critical ones, right? If you are focusing on crits, then perhaps the Worldly Snare is a good addition to have. But I do want to mention that 2 new skills are about to come out, and I think they are going to be designed for this class. So keep an eye on that. I did mention it in one of the other videos because we got a sneak peek. There are 2 skills. One of them is going to be available in the cross-server Showdown Points shop, and the other one is going to be in the Family Brawl Battle shop. My assumption, they'll probably become must-haves for your class and can help you out a lot. So keep an eye out for them. I think they'll be fairly helpful. Going over to our relics, you definitely want to have this one, which gives you a pal crit rate of 5% because you're probably going to be building out your class based on a lot of pal damage, and having an extra pal crit rate is obviously useful. For the second relic, I think this one makes a lot of sense. Basic attacks of dragon, turtle, or lizard, and you will probably have the turtle and the lizard, and they have a 20% chance to deal damage equal to 0.5% of their own maximum HP, which can end up being a lot of damage. Now, talking about the avians, you do want to try to get this avian because if you look at it, each pal crit increases its final crit damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. That's 10% final crit damage. And then each pal combo increases final combo damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. So that's up to 10% final combo damage. Both of those are pretty helpful, and you are going to be focusing on pal damage, and of course, combo and crit damage are part of that. So you do want to try to get this. Additionally, if you look in here, a lot of its passive abilities have to do with pal crit damage. So the first 2, this one pal crit damage and global combo, this one global counter and pal crit damage, this one skill crit damage and pal crit damage, and this one says that pal crits have a 25% chance of dealing extra damage equal to 0.5% of the target's current HP. So everything is revolving around pals, so definitely a really nice avian to have. Talking about the back accessories talents, you'll notice that there is a 4th one that's been unlocked for tamed beasts. And as you can imagine, a lot of these abilities in this one are going to be focusing on pal damage. As you can see here, pal crit damage on this one, pal damage here, and the final one here is that pal damage increases every 2 seconds by an extra 3% up to 30%. So for me, the yellow one seems quite interesting, right? Pal damage, pal crit damage, and then this extra pal damage increase. The blue one is also good. It does have the pal damage in it and pal attack speed. And there's this healing that you can get every 8 pal basic attacks. But the final one is a pal combo rate, which is also really good. But of course, I seem to prefer to focus on increasing my pal damage. overall, but this is definitely something really good as well, something that you can prioritize because it's a combo rate, right? It's not just combo damage, it's 30% extra chance of doing combos, which is of course really good. Now if you go to the artifacts enchantments, you do want to try to get pal damage in these artifacts. Now in artifact number 4, you can actually get pal damage as a primary attribute. I would definitely try to get that because it allows you to increase your pal damage by a lot. Other than that, you can actually get pal damage as a secondary attribute in any of the others, including the 4th one. As you can see here, in artifact number 6, I have pal damage as a purple, giving me 4.65% extra pal damage. So try your best to increase your pal damage in the artifact enchantments. Finally, you also want to make sure that you get the set bonuses that give you global pal damage plus 10%, right? Global pal damage is very helpful because it takes effect after the other multipliers have already taken effect. So make sure that when you are choosing your artifacts, they are the ones that correlate with this set bonus, the global pal damage, and try to get 4 of them with that set bonus. The other 2 you can mix and match and decide which one works best for you, but of course you want to get the global pal damage of plus 10% as it can be fairly helpful. When we talk about souls, you of course want to get the global attack, global health, and global defense. But other than that, you also want to try to focus on getting the pal damage one, which is something you get using the counter red soul and the pal damage red soul. So definitely try to get this one. And if you look here, you can actually get a 3rd stat, which can be pal crit damage, which is quite helpful. I got pretty lucky on that regard. And then you also want to get the pal crit rate and pal crit damage, which actually comes from the red crit res soul and of course the pal crit rate and pal crit damage soul. So these 2 are definitely amazing additions that you want to try to get to increase the amount of damage that your pals do. Rings actually give you extra pal basic attack crit damage of 15% and ignore evasion by 12% before level 101. I don't know if this actually becomes even higher once you get to level 101, but it's definitely interesting to keep note that you can actually increase some of your pals damaging abilities using rings. When we talk about the fruit bonuses, you definitely want to go hard on pal damage and try to get all 5 of your fruit bonuses to be focusing on pal damage because that can really help increase the damage of your pals, which basically is your specialty of this class. Now when it comes to mounts, you guys are in luck because the Hot Wheels actually has an extra mount skill that boosts the pal attack speed by 2% up to 40% at 1 star. So without really spending any money, you can get certain benefits that can help your pals do more damage. There is a mount that gives you pal crit damage, and that is the Blue Ox. And the Blue Ox is generally a very nice mount as well because it increases your damage res and shortens the duration of control effects by 30%. This was definitely overpowered in PvP. That being said, now that the Panda mount is coming out soon, this might become secondary to the Panda mount when it comes to the ability to handle control effects. But of course, the pal crit damage of 25% is definitely helpful as well. Finally, when we talk about gear, you do want to try to get the pal combo and pal crit rate gear because of course we're focusing so much on pal damage. You might as well increase the chances of doing combo and crits on your pals. So those are the 2 stats that I consider the most important for this class. Try to get your gear with both pal combo and pal crit, or at least one of those attributes. And since I still have you here, I do want you to know that you can get between 10 to 35% bonus on in-game purchases by using Aptoide. All you need to do is download Aptoide on your phone or BlueStacks if you don't have an Android phone. Start purchasing and you're going to start getting amazing bonuses. Like if you get a $100 pack, you get between $10 to $35 as bonuses that you can then use to buy additional packs. So it's definitely worth it. Use our promo code. Currently the promo code is SkyMush, at least until the end of September. And of course, as our promo code changes, I'll keep you updated so you continue to get the extra 5% bonus that you get by using our promo code. If you're interested, do check out our video that I'm linking in the description. And that covers this video. I know this class is a little harder to understand and it doesn't have a set path that you need to choose from, but I'm hoping from this video you were able to understand how this class works and come up with your own ideas on how you can really make it strong. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one.